Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I have to admit, the moment I heard General Hospital was bringing in another mysterious newcomer, I leaned forward in my chair. After spending so many years watching this show, I've learned that the writers rarely introduce someone out of nowhere unless they're about to shake the entire town. That's why Hudson immediately caught my attention. I've seen charming strangers, dangerous strangers, and strangers who turned out to be heroes. But this one gives me the feeling that he's carrying something much darker, and I don't think Port Charles is ready for what he's bringing with him. The more I read about Hudson, the more convinced I became that this isn't just another supporting character meant to fill a few episodes. Troy Lennon-Appel is making his debut on July 30, and from everything the show's head writers have shared, they're clearly building anticipation for someone who is determined, relentless, and impossible to distract from his mission. When the writers themselves say that nothing and nobody will stop this man from getting what he wants, I don't hear a simple character description. I hear a warning. That's the kind of sentence GH likes to use before someone's entire life gets turned upside down. What really fascinates me is that the writers refuse to reveal exactly who Hudson is searching for. They could have dropped a name if they wanted to, but instead they left us guessing. Now, maybe that's just a clever way to build suspense, but I've watched enough soap operas to know there's usually a reason they're protecting a secret like this. They want us looking in one direction while something even bigger is waiting around the corner. If you ask me, Ethan Lovett makes the most sense. I just can't ignore how his recent storyline has been unfolding. Ever since Ethan returned to Port Charles, there's been this lingering feeling that his past isn't finished with him. He may have escaped whatever happened during his previous mission, but escaping doesn't always mean winning. Sometimes the real consequences arrive weeks or even months later when you finally convinced yourself the danger is over. That's exactly how life works, and honestly, that's one reason I've always appreciated General Hospital. The show understands that yesterday's mistakes don't disappear simply because you stopped talking about them. I've always believed Ethan is one of those characters who survives by thinking faster than everyone else. He's resourceful, he's unpredictable, and he's gotten himself out of impossible situations before. But people like Ethan usually leave a trail behind them. Every clever escape creates another person who wants revenge. Every successful con creates another victim who refuses to forget. Eventually, somebody decides they've waited long enough. Hudson could easily be that somebody. Maybe Ethan cheated him during one of his old scams. Maybe he took money that never belonged to him. Maybe he ruined someone's business or someone's family without even realizing how much damage he caused. I don't necessarily believe Ethan is a bad man, but I've lived long enough to know that good people sometimes make terrible decisions. Those decisions have a funny way of circling back when you least expect them. Like my grandfather used to say, the chickens always come home to roost. I can't help thinking Ethan may be standing at that exact moment in his life. Still, another idea keeps nagging at me, and honestly, I think it might be even more exciting. What if Hudson isn't chasing Ethan because of a personal grudge at all? What if he's simply doing a job? That possibility completely changes the picture for me. We've just watched Ross Cullum fall, and it certainly feels like Jen Sidwell's time is running out as well. Whenever General Hospital closes one villain's chapter, another one usually starts opening before we even notice. The writers love playing the long game. They'll quietly introduce a seemingly ordinary character, let everyone underestimate him, and then months later we realize he was connected to the biggest threat all along. That's exactly why Hudson makes me nervous. I wouldn't be surprised if he's working for someone we've never even met yet. Maybe there's a powerful figure pulling the strings from somewhere outside Port Charles. Maybe Hudson is simply the tracker, the man sent ahead to locate Ethan before the real mastermind arrives. If that's true, Ethan isn't the final target. He's just the first domino waiting to fall. And once the first domino tips over, everyone around Ethan could find themselves in danger. That's another thing I keep coming back to. General Hospital never lets these stories stay contained. One person's secret quickly becomes everybody else's problem. Friends get dragged in, families start taking sides. Old enemies suddenly become reluctant allies. Before long, the entire town is dealing with consequences that started with one mysterious stranger walking into Port Charles. I honestly think Hudson has the potential to become much more than a one-note villain. There's something intriguing about a man who's willing to cross any line to complete his mission. People like that usually have layers. Maybe he's motivated by revenge. Maybe loyalty drives him. Maybe he's trapped working for someone even more dangerous than himself. Whatever the truth is, I hope the writers don't rush it. Some of the best GH villains weren't terrifying because they were loud. They were terrifying because we slowly discovered just how far they were willing to go. As for Ethan, I don't think running is going to solve anything this time. Running might buy him another day or another week, but secrets have a habit of catching up. That's one lesson Port Charles teaches over and over again. You can hide from people for a while, but you can't hide from your past forever. Sooner or later, it knocks on your door. That's why I'm genuinely looking forward to Hudson's arrival. Not because I want to see another chase, but because I think this storyline could become the beginning of the next major chapter for General Hospital. If the writers play their cards right, Hudson won't just be introducing another mystery. He'll be opening the door to a much larger game one with hidden players, dangerous alliances, and consequences that could stretch far beyond Ethan himself. And if I've learned anything after all these years of watching this show, it's this. The biggest storms in Port Charles usually begin with one person nobody paid enough attention to. The more I replay Ethan's actions in my mind, the less I believe this was just a desperate man trying to make an adoption go smoothly. I've watched General Hospital for too many years to fall for that. Ethan didn't grab the first piece of evidence he could find. He went into the PCPD, took DNA evidence from an unsolved case file, and used it in place of his own sample. That wasn't a random decision. It was calculated, risky, and, if you ask me, far more important than we've been led to believe. What keeps nagging at me is the source of that DNA. The writers could have simply said Ethan forged the paperwork or bribed someone in a lab, but they didn't. Instead, they specifically tied the fake DNA to an old unsolved crime in Port Charles. That little detail has been sitting in the back of my mind ever since. Around here, details like that don't just disappear. They usually come back months later and hit everyone like a freight train. I also can't ignore what this could mean for Phoebe. Right now, everyone has been focused on Ethan pretending to be her father, but I think the bigger question is this. Who is her real father? If the DNA Ethan stole belongs to someone connected to that cold case, then Phoebe's biological father may have a history that reaches much deeper into Port Charles than anyone realizes. I have a feeling we're looking at a secret that stretches back years, maybe even decades, and we're only seeing the first layer being peeled away. That's where Hudson enters the picture, and this is where my imagination really starts working overtime. One possibility is that Hudson has a direct connection to that old case. Maybe he knew the victim. Maybe he worked with the suspect. Maybe he has spent years trying to track down the person responsible. If that's true, Ethan unknowingly dragged himself into something much bigger simply by stealing the wrong piece of evidence. Sometimes one bad decision creates a chain reaction, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what's happening here. So as excited as I am to watch Hudson arrive in Port Charles, I'm even more interested in what happens after he finds Ethan. Sometimes catching the person you're chasing is only the beginning. If my instincts are right, Hudson won't just expose Ethan's lies. He'll pull on a thread that unravels years of hidden secrets, and once that happens, I don't think anyone in Port Charles will walk away unchanged.